So we're going to do another flower watercolor, but this time it's going to be quite a bit different and we're going to learn a new technique. So just take a piece of your mixed media paper. This is actually one that I painted on the other side and decided that I was going to do something different. So I'm just flipping it over, and it doesn't even matter if it has some color on it already, because you're going to find out why. We need to have our watercolors, and we need to have our darkest blues, as well as our black. And for the second day, we will also need white. So we're going to be making a watercolor painting of a wildflower or a dandelion that is in full bloom, and all of the little white pieces are floating off of the stem. So we're going to make the background, and we're going to be using salt in order to make it have an interesting texture. So we want the background to be very, very dark because our dandelion is going to be white, and in order to have the highest contrast, we're wanting the background to be dark. So I'm going to take a flat brush and I'm going to dip it into water, and I'm going to put dark blue around the outside and then have my black in the middle. The black in the middle is going to be the highest contrast with the white of the flower. So I'm going to start with one of my blues, and I'm picking up quite a bit of water and quite a bit of color and focusing on the outside. Notice that every time that I dip into my water and pick up some of my blue, and I want this to be quite a bit darker. It's still watercolor. Now, I'm working pretty quickly because I guess I've always kind of been a messy artist, but watercolor is one of those mediums. I'm going to go into my darkest blue now. Watercolor is one of those mediums that you don't want to have edges drying at a different rate than the body of area that has color on it. So I want my whole painting to be wet at the same time. I'm still pressing down, and I'm just working the outsides until I get to the center, and now I'm going to be picking up black and lots of water, lots of paint, and I'm getting that black down, and I think I'm going to do kind of a starburst type directional with my brush. Now my paper has lots of water on it, so now I'm just going to try to pick up more blue and more black and darken it as much as I can. So I'm purposefully doing kind of a radial pattern. It's going to work well with my flower. So I'm picking my brush up from the outside and dragging it into the middle, getting more paint on it, dragging it to the middle, and I'm going to have my flower right in the middle, so that's just going to bring some visual attention to it. Now it's nice and wet, it has quite a bit of color, Still kind of like to get it darker. So when you feel like it's pretty good, remember that you don't want to overwork the paper because that will end up breaking down the paper, and then it'll get kind of pilly. All right, so that's pretty good. And now I'm going to take my salt and I'm going to salt all over my painting. Now what the salt is going to do is it's going to absorb the water, and in doing so you can see already how it's creating this texture. It's going to make a difference with how the end result looks. It'll have this little subtle texture in it. So we're going to leave this to the side and come back to it tomorrow.